double budget hell coming at us, but we're in 2009, 2010 budget hell. So let me just explain that. 2009, 2010. The major pieces of work that the city did that is structural in nature is made a very difficult decision to say we are going to downsize government permanently for 15 years. So what that means is, and it was done in a way that not everybody agreed to. Mayor's office took the lead in negotiating with the Coalition of City Unions, which is SEIU, AFSCME, Building Trades, Labor 777, which is a supervisor's unit, and the airport police, and the Teamsters. Other unions refused to sit down and negotiate, engineers and architects, IBW 18, firefighters, Police Protective League, had a separate arrangement, right? But we took the bulk of the union members that are on the general fund and had a hard conversation, and at the end of the day, instead of putting 3,000 entry-level workers on the unemployment line, we took 2,400 senior folks within sight of retirement, said, okay, 2,400 early retirements using an incentive program, 100% paid for by increased pension contributions from the rest of the city workforce on our LACERS pension system. And in exchange for that approach, those city unions said, we're going to give up what we had previously negotiated 3 years ago, a 2.5% COLA, cost of living adjustment, any step increases, right? And we will increase our contribution to the pension system. That was the contractual relationship. They didn't have to come back to the table because they could have continued on. It was a 5-year contract. It was in year 4 of the contract. They came back voluntarily, worked out something that actually was good for the city. It was good for services, good for the city. Some people can still take issue with it, but it's hard to, knowing what issues we still have ahead of us. So what we did was 2,400 early retirements. In order to get them out the door, you have to get them, we can only process them $400 per month. You have to give them their all of their vacation pay. We worked out a deal to pay the vacation pay over time, not in big lump sums, right? And so we're moving rapidly towards 2,400. We're about 1,400 out the door so far. In the next 2 months, we should be able to accomplish the 2,400 early retirements from throughout the city. Some people would say you're losing all your institutional knowledge. We are losing a lot of institutional knowledge as a city. That's the downside. The upside is that we're not putting people on the unemployment line. We're letting people retire. And number two, people are actually who've been waiting in positions for real responsibility for decades are getting a chance to step up into those responsibilities. So instead of pushing everybody back to their prior job, you're allowing people to actually be challenged with opportunities and responsibility, right? So it changes a sense of the workforce in terms of how the workforce is. Because of receipts and projected receipts, and it's not just our crisis, it's every government entity's crisis. In our 2009-2010 budget, we have a $212 million hole that is opened up in our 2009-2010 budget, right? We have, in terms of our reserve, the reserve as of today is $171 million. The reserve projected for 6/30 is $232 million. Can we live off of our reserve? If we do live off our reserve and we don't address this hole with anything other than the reserve, then our rating is going to go through the floor, and all money that we need in order to float our costs and salaries are going to be hugely much more expensive. Everybody understands we have got to address this crisis now, right? So you have this process. Let me tell you what the process we're in the middle of. You have, in these 2,400 early retirements, about 1,400 are retirements from general funded positions. About 1,000 of them are retirements from special funded positions or proprietary departments, right? So you have somebody leave a proprietary department or a special fund position, that doesn't help you on this. But what it does do is it creates a place for people in special funded positions to migrate if they are appropriately skilled. And every person you take off the general fund and bring to a special funded position is the same as a layoff as far as our crisis is concerned. So what is happening right now? You saw Miguel Santana put out a call for 1,000 layoffs about maybe 3 weeks ago, right? And then put together his list of 1,000 layoffs. He probably shouldn't have called it 1,000 layoffs because that was not clear communication from my point of view. That was a call for 1,000 layoffs / transfer. Layoff / transfer list. Why is this a profound thing? In 1983, the city of Los Angeles laid off 8 people. We don't have experience at mass layoffs. It's the first time we're really, truly in this crisis, right? So here we are in our layoff list. Turns out, of the 1,000 layoffs, the list he put together had 60 firefighters that if we had laid them off, we would have to still do those jobs in time and a half. So we immediately took 60 people off that list. So now we're really on that layoff list, there's 940 people. Of that 940 people, there are 262 that are eligible for layoff now. General funded positions represented by engineers and architects who refuse to give up their cost of living adjustments, refuse to give up their step increases, say, okay, you get no protection. 262 eligible for layoff now who we think are expendable within our city departments.